Hey, it is Friday night. It's the second Friday of the month, which is our usual time where we go to Simonka Place and do chapel. So even though with coronavirus, we are here doing online chapel because you know what? You can't stop us. We're going to share the word no matter what happens. So I want to go into Matthew 13 tonight. A couple days ago, I was talking on my usual restoration house night. We were talking about weeds. We were talking about how there's blackberries and these weeds like crabgrass that grow up among the grass. And we're talking about the big ugly weeds and how we have weeds in our life and that they're really hard to get out. And like the blackberries, they just grow and grow and grow, and they just seem to come back. And no matter what you do, but you got to get them at the root, right? We're talking about all that kind of stuff. Well, we're going to kind of switch gears tonight and talk about what they call the parable of the sower. Sometimes you know it as the parable of the seeds. And so I'm just going to read you two sections of Matthew 13 to get started, and then we'll dive in. It'll be fun. So I got my new Bible, by the way. This is the giant print one. You can probably see it. It's awesome. So the parable of the sower, Matthew 13. The same day that Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him. You know, every time he went out, throngs of people showed up. So he gets in a boat and he sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow. That's kind of like a farmer who's going to like seed his soil. And as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they were withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them out. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Then Jesus goes on to say some things to his disciples, and then we pick it back up in verse 16. Verse 18. It says, hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown into his heart. This is what is sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root, but endures for a while. But when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, he immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case, 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. If you've been around the church a while, you've heard the parable of the sower before. I want to approach it first. We're going to do the normal thing, but I want to approach it first from the guy throwing the seed. What's he doing? He's throwing it on rocks. He's just going crazy. Woo! Seed for everybody. He's throwing around, and I love the image because we don't really think about the parable from the seed thrower's perspective. We always think about it from where the seed lands and the imagery of, does it land with people that are going to actually do something with it or not. But I want to talk about throwing seed, because a lot of times what I find for those who are in the faith and want to share their faith, they get really frustrated about how to share their faith. And you don't want to sing to the choir, right? We're not here to tell people who already believe to believe. We're to encourage them, but we're supposed to go out to the people who don't believe, and we're supposed to talk to them and encourage them to at least have a relationship, or at least try to meet Jesus, right? So this parable of the sower is fun for me because I just see this guy throwing seed everywhere. He's just got handfuls. He's winging it around. He's just, some's landing on the rocks, some's landing on a path, some's landing in the bushes, some's landing in the blackberry bushes, and he's just throwing this stuff, going crazy. And this is what our job is. I don't know when evangelism got to be a dirty word and how it got to be a dirty word, but it is the great commandment, right? When Jesus in Matthew 28, when he's leaving us, the last thing he said was, go out and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. teaching them everything I have taught you, right? Everyone forgets that last part. Go out among the world and do all this stuff, and they stop. But it says teaching them what I have taught you, which is the important part, right? We're supposed to share Jesus and then disciple them up so that they can go out and share Jesus and disciple others, so they can go out and share Jesus and disciple others. That's how this whole thing works. Well, how do you do that? Who do you know? Let's say you go to like a big department store. Let's say you're Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart, some big place, and you're looking around. And in the old days, there would be crowds. Who there's going to listen to the word? Who there's, if you throw the seed, who's gonna listen to it? I don't know. I don't know if people are interested in hearing it. All I know is this: when I read the parable of the sower, my job's to throw seed. I mean, it doesn't say here that the sower went out and carefully chose the good soil, and that's the only place he put his seed. It doesn't say that. It said he threw it on the path, he threw it in the bushes, he threw it in the weeds, he threw it, he threw it where the sun was scorching, or there was shallow soil. He threw it everywhere. And some of it also landed in some good soil, and there was a great harvest, which was, the fruit of the Spirit and all that kind of stuff, which was great. Hey, Patrick Drury, nice to see you. So the first part of the parable of the sower, as I'm looking at Scripture, is think about you as a sower of seed. You don't. Is he worried? Is the sower in the story worried about where the seed is landing? Is that his concern? No. In this story, Jesus is telling us, throw the seed, just throw it, and it'll land where it lands. Hey, Ladina, nice to see you out there. The seed will land where it lands. And what I tell people that are scared of evangelism, scared to share Jesus, scared to share their testimony, whatever their witness might be, is understand that your job is just to throw the seed. The Holy Spirit does the work. Right? The Holy Spirit does the work. It's between God and a person whether they're going to accept the word or not. It's not between you and them. And a lot of times we have to remember as evangelists, and that's not a dirty word. We're commanded, every one of us, not just those that are gifted, every one of us are commanded, go to the nations. And that nations could be your own backyard in your own town, right? There's plenty of unsaved people right where you live. We're to go out and share Jesus, and then let the chips fall where they may. Some of it's going to fall on good soil. Some of it's not. And the sower in this story he's not concerned about where it goes. He just is throwing seed like a madman. And I love that imagery, because that's how I like to be. I like to just to throw the seed. And sometimes it's not received well. Oh, well, that's not between you and me. That's between you and God. I have nothing to do with that. My job is my job, and my job is to throw seed. And I think that as Christians, we miss this part of this parable, that there are two components here. Those that are receiving the seed, which are all the soils, and we'll get to that. But the sower, it's about the sower. And we are all sowers of seed. We are all people that have to share. Now, here's something else I always share with people that are scared about evangelism. Most people that are scared to share their faith are afraid of rejection. They're afraid they're going to offend somebody, and they're going to get this feedback that they don't like. And rightfully so, I think, because Jesus told us they're going to hate us because they hated him. So it's not like he didn't warn us, which is why he also says, I think it's in Luke, he says, consider the cost. There's a story he tells about if you're going to build something, you don't go out and build something without considering what it's going to cost so you can finish the job. Hey, Stephanie, good to see you. You got to consider the cost of following Jesus. And it's going to mean you're rejected. It's going to mean all this stuff. But here's the thing. If you feel rejected when you share Jesus with people, you've made it about you and not about Jesus. Let me say that again. If you feel rejected when you share Jesus, you've somehow made it about you and not about Jesus. See, Jesus has already been rejected. He's okay with it. Jesus was crucified and died and was buried and rose again, right? He's good. Never feel like you have to defend God. God's big enough. He doesn't need us to defend him. Our job is not to argue with people about God. Our job is to share Jesus. Throw the seed. Let it land where it lands. And let the Holy Spirit then, between that person and God, wrestle it out. Now, you can walk with them, you can help them, right? You can do all these things. It's great. But I never feel like I have to, defend God. My goodness, he's God. And if people don't believe, I'm going to be like Jesus. Did you ever watch Jesus when someone walked away from him? Did he ever chase them down and say, "Oh no, wait, you're missing this out. This is eternal life. Oh my gosh, you don't want to." No. He's like, "Okay, your choice." He always let people walk away. And I think too often we look at evangelism like it's scalp hunting or something. Like we're out there we got to get another notch on our gun belt because we're sending another person to heaven. I'm not sending anybody to heaven. That's not my job. My job is to share Jesus and the love of Christ with people. And as a sower of seed, I take that job really seriously. I think that everywhere I go, I want to share Jesus. And sometimes you do it verbally, sometimes you do it through action, sometimes you do it through just shining your light. There's a lot of ways to show Jesus to people. Like today, oh my gosh, I was so stupid. I was so stupid. So I'm in the Walmart parking lot, and I'm leaving, and there's a car that's at a stop sign. I got to my stop sign first, and there's a car coming from the right, and I'm sure he's got a stop sign. Should be like a four-way stop. It's not. And I kind of pulled out in front of the guy. I was like, "Oh, I'm such a dumbass." So I get in my car, and I drive down, and luckily the guy gets pulled up right next to me at this stoplight, and I roll down my window. I'm like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm so stupid." And they were the nicest, most gracious people. And I was throwing seed. I said, "God bless you for being so gracious. And, I'm really sorry." And they're like, "No, we got to be nice to each other." And they were just great people. Even in that moment, I was seeking forgiveness for being stupid because I was being stupid. I wasn't paying attention or whatever I was doing. And they were very nice. They were forgiving. And in that moment, there was a Jesus moment there. And I didn't have to mention Jesus because I was seeking forgiveness and I was humbling myself because I made a mistake. And they were being really kind. That's important to do because you can show Jesus just by your actions, by seriously just being honest about, I'm going to humble myself when I make a mistake. Because Scripture says what? Seek forgiveness. Hey, Wendy, I see you there. So when you're thinking about being a sower of seed, don't worry about rejection because it's not about you. Don't make it about you. It's about Jesus. He's been rejected. He's good with it. People have walked away from him. People have betrayed him. People have, treated him pretty ruthlessly. He's good with that. So you should be too. So if someone doesn't like the message or they feel offended, that's also between them and God. That's not between you and them. You have one job, and that's to share Jesus. That's it. And it's really not that hard. Don't make it harder than it is. See, the sower in his book, in his story in Matthew 13, he's just winging seed. And he's just out there doing it. And I like what Ladina says. She says, "Toss it like confetti." It's you just do it. And if they like it, great, help them out. If they don't like it, oh well, move on. Okay, so let's talk about the soils. This is kind of an important part too. And this is where most pastors land, is the soils. And so I'm going to go back to the beginning of Matthew 13 here and use my handy dandy glasses. Even though I got a large print Bible, I still need glasses. It's the couple things are here. The same day Jesus went out and he sat by the sea and great crowds gathered. Did you ever notice? I always tell people this, and this is part about being a sower. Jesus spoke in synagogue and he went to the temple, but 10,000 people showed up when he went outside. Right? Great crowds followed him everywhere when he was outside. And I think it's really instructive for those of us who are in the ministry. And it doesn't matter whether you're a pastor in a church or you got a paraministry like I do, or you're a lay person that just wants to, do whatever you do. We need to meet people where they are. The church has its function and it's great. And I love the church. But the church isn't the building. The church is us. And if you really want to evangelize, you got to meet people where they are. And this is what Jesus was so good at. He would go to the beach, it says here, and he'd hang out and people would show up. Guess I'll talk to them. So if you're in a place and people show up, guess you should talk to them, right? Okay, let's continue on. So here's the first part. Excuse me about that. The sower throws, and it says the seeds fell along the path and birds devoured them. I liken this to people that you tell about Jesus and they don't want it. I mean, I saw this great line the other day. It said, um, people don't reject the Bible because it contradicts itself. They reject the Bible because it contradicts them. There are people that are atheists and angry atheists, if you can believe that, uh, that just reject it. They don't want it. They just don't want anything to do with Jesus. And so, does that mean you don't throw seed there? Well, not according to this. According to this, you still throw the seed. I think this is important. Uh, I'm a firm believer that everybody's redeemable. Um, the stories that I could tell you from some of the people I work with, my ministry, well, a big portion of my ministry is working with the marginalized, working with people that society throws away, and um, because we judge them and we rank their sins worse than ours, all those kind of things. And the stories I could tell you about redemption, about how Jesus has worked in their life and the transformation they've made and all those type of things, I think is remarkable. My own story personally, my witness is the same story. I've experienced just incredible transformation that is mind blowing. But imagine if nobody threw seed on that path. Where would I be? Where would they be? Paul says we got to go out and preach Jesus, because if we don't preach it, nobody's going to hear it. And if they don't hear it, how are they going to learn it? Right. So in this parable, it says that he threw seed on a path where the birds just came and ate it, where they rejected it and Satan just took it from them. And that's what. Now, here's what's funny about those people. You ever notice in our spiritual warfare, those of us that are in the faith, the deeper in our faith, the more spiritual warfare there is? The more we're doing for the kingdom, the more we're doing God, the more we're doing his will, the more we're following him, the harder our battle is. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? If you're fighting God, do you care about those that don't believe in God? No, let them go on their way. Don't worry about them. They're fine. Do you really care about the agnostics too much? No, you just keep confusing them and let them go. The ones you're worried about, if you're the enemy of God, are those that are staunch believers, and those that are actually doing things for God and fulfilling their ministry and mission for God. You worry about those people, right? If you want to read a fun story about that, read the Screw Tape Letters by Lewis, C.S. Lewis. It's hilarious, especially in this time frame. I think it's when he wrote it, it was apropos, but even now, I think it's even more apropos, just given the politics and things. So we got this first group that they're just believers, but realize as a seed thrower, we still throw the seed to them. We still do it. My dad was an atheist, and almost to his dying day, I kept on trying to hit him with Jesus stuff. Now, he grew up a Jew, so it was doubly hard, because not only was he rejecting Jesus as a Jew, he wasn't, didn't see him as the Messiah, but when he left the faith, then it was like a double whammy. I don't think I ever got him there, but I didn't stop trying. I threw that seed along the path, and the birds ate it, and the birds ate it, and the birds ate it. And you can get so frustrated as a seed thrower if you personalize it. If you think you're doing something wrong, I'm just not doing the right thing. I'm not saying the right words. I'm not using the right approach. If I just was a better evangelist, they would. No, none of that's true. That's not what this says. You throw the seed, you let it land where it lands, and then let the Holy Spirit do his work. Get out of the way. Stay in your lane. Your lane is to throw seed. Your lane isn't to make it all happen. That's God's job. Okay. So I want to pound that message home, because a lot of folks I know get really self-conscious about this evangelism piece, and where they get really worried is with this group. You throw that seed on a path, you don't know if it's a path or not, and they're just not having it, and they react to you in a way. Um, you'll wear a Christian shirt or something. They'll say, religion's a crutch, or religion started all these wars, and they'll just say all this hateful stuff. And you're like, oh, well, man, that's between you and God, not between you and me. And that's what you have to kind of do in these kind of things. Well, God says this and he's intolerant and blah, blah, blah. That's between you and God, not between you and me. I love people. I love you guys. I want to share who Jesus is to me. I want to share my experience with Jesus. And it's different than what you're saying. I don't know the Jesus you're talking about. I know the Jesus that I talk about. So just FYI about, how you go about this. My wife is asking, are you talking about me? Of course I am. I'm talking about everyone. In my sermons, Lisa knows this particularly. There are no sacred cows. Everyone gets their shot. Okay, let's go to the second one. Okay, other seed fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil and immediately sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. Okay, have you met those people that when they hear the word, they're really excited? They just. I really believe they love Jesus. I really believe they want this. They really want to have this relationship. But those of us that have been in the faith a while know that the relationship is about deepening and deepening and deepening. It's like, if you have a friend who's a good friend, and this is like your best friend or whatever it is, every time you meet, your relationship gets better and stronger and gets deeper, and you share deeper things, and it just grows and grows and grows. There's a lot of people who meet Jesus and they stagnate. They get to a place with Jesus and they stop, and because they think that's what it is. They don't have deep roots, and we know with that, when you don't have deep roots, you're going to get pulled up. The wind's going to blow, the rain's going to come, whatever's going to happen. And in this case, it says the sun scorched them, and the sun in this case, the imagery is when there is persecution or trouble, you'll leave the faith. Jesus saw that. He had 70 disciples. And at one point, I forget which book, he's talking to them and he's kind of foreshadowing communion. And he's talking about they have to eat his flesh and drink his blood to be a part of him. Well, they were taking him really literally. And they're like, ooh, that's pretty darn gross. We're walking away. They said, that's hard learning. And they walked. Well, their roots weren't very deep, were they? Because one, they couldn't understand. Two, they didn't trust Jesus. They didn't say, what are you talking about? Rabbi, are you serious? Or what is, explain this to us. I mean, they were disciples. He could explain it to them. They just left because they were offended. And their roots weren't very deep. So I've met Christians that get offended by God. And I kind of, really? I get that dog looking at a fan kind of thing. You're offended by God of the universe, God that made everything, God that made everything from nothing, God who's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. You're offended by him? Isn't it the other way around? Isn't God offended by us? I mean, his ways aren't our ways, so stop thinking that you're so smart, really. When we're offended, we think our ways are right and his ways are wrong. We think he's unreasonable. Man, but that's what happens. And that's what happened to those 70 disciples. They were offended and they walked away. Well, when things got tough, when the learning got tough, when the in scripture, when it gets tough, especially in our culture where we have to stick to what scripture says, when it gets tough, you're going to walk away. And what bothers me as a guy that reads the Bible, I mean, I'm not a denominationalist kind of guy. I don't care what denomination you are. I think Jesus just kind of goes, that's not what we planned. Do you see churches though falling away because they think God's word is unreasonable compared to the culture, and the roots are really, really shallow. And personally, I don't want to be part of any of those churches. I want to be a part of something that is solid, that is Bible based, that just follows the word, good, bad, and ugly. And I'm the first to tell you that there is plenty in the Bible that seems ugly. There's plenty in the Bible that's hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? This is why it's faith. You look at this stuff and say, you know what? On the hard pieces of learning that don't jive with our culture, and there's plenty of it. And it's not just the homosexual issue, the abortion issue. Scripture says, don't drink unto drunkenness. That's a sin. Don't sin in your anger. It says all sorts of things. Don't abuse people. It says all sorts of things that we do as a culture that are pseudo acceptable. I mean, even now, I'm watching the news, not to get political, but it looks like the FBI was trying to set people up by trying to get them to lie. Well, it says don't bear false witness, and it's one of the top 10 commandments you're not supposed to do. Yet we just go, whatever. You look at that stuff, and as a Bible believer, you go, that's not right. And I don't care if you agree with me. I don't care if you hate me because I believe this stuff. I'm not answering to you when I die. When I die, I'm seeing Jesus. And he's the only guy I got to impress. And so if you don't like me because I'm a Bible guy, oh well, sorry. That again is between you and God, not you and me. I'm going to believe what I believe because Bible's God's word. And so you will find people who will be very excited about their faith, and then they'll have a hardship. And I'm not saying the hardships aren't real. I've seen a lot of people question their faith and even leave their faith over a death of a loved one. Someone will get cancer, and they'll say, "I don't, loving God wouldn't do this." My mom had multiple sclerosis, and she was bedridden right after I was born, and basically rotted in a hospital bed for 20 years. And for when I was younger, I didn't quite understand it, and I do now. We have fallen bodies. We're in a fallen place. She wasn't paying for anybody's sin or anything like that. It was just unfortunate that she got this disease because we're fallen, and she gave her life up for me, and that's kind of what happened. And sucks. I'm not going to say that, but it certainly didn't shake my faith. My faith in God is my faith in God. Things of this world are passing. Think about it for a second. Let's say you live 80 years, or if you're part of my wife's family, you live 95 years. Okay, then you're done. There's been 100 generations since the beginning of man that we know about. 100 generations have passed. Maybe more. I don't know. I'm a liberal arts major. Don't kid me on math. But let's say 100 just for argument's sake. Who remembers 3 generations ago anybody in their family? Right? You don't remember this stuff. Our time is fleeting. Our time is really nothing, right? But our eternity is amazing. My wife just said 110. She's the science person. 110 generations. Think about this. Your eternity is not fleeting. So the things we worry about on this earth are really fleeting, but we get so wrapped around the axle and blame God. And anytime it gets hard, we run away from him instead of run toward him. And because we don't understand. And so I'm just pounding away on this one about the scorched growth, because consider the cost. When you decide to follow Jesus, your life should change. You don't have to change before you follow Jesus. Jesus says, "Come, everyone." But you definitely, oh, Lisa's correcting me. Her family lives to be 110 years old. That's true. Your life is going to change. You come to him and you will transform. And things that you used to think were important just aren't anymore, because you kind of see things through heavenly eyes instead of worldly eyes, and it changes you. But if you're really not following Jesus, if you're really not trying to deepen that relationship, if you just think you've got it made and you got this great relationship because you went to church sometime when you were a kid and you said the prayer and maybe you were baptized, you're going to get scorched when things get hard. You're going to walk away from your faith. You're going to try to do things yourself. You're going to try to do things the world's way. You're going to try all sorts of stuff. Instead of running to Jesus, you're going to run away from Jesus. And I got to tell you, my own experience, I'm just a guy, but my experience is that never works. And this parable is very true. The seed will land. You'll get excited. You'll love this Jesus guy. You'll think the Bible's fantastic. You'll go to church and you'll love the people. Everything's great. And then a hardship will hit you and you'll just slowly move away from it. I've seen it over and over and over again. And unfortunately, you can't even counsel folks in that position because they just don't want to hear it. So, if you know people that are in that position where they're having a hardship and kind of moving away, I think what we do as evangelists is we try to move them back toward Jesus. Don't run away from Jesus, back toward Jesus. And it's okay not to know everything. And it's okay to be mad at God. It's okay to shake your fist at him and scream at him and wrestle with him. He wants that. He wants that more than you just walking away, mad. So FYI on that one. So let's go to the next one. The third one. This is the one where the seeds fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. This is a good one. This is a really good one. This is basically, I think, for all the nominal Christians out there, Christians that maybe, again, said the prayer, grew up in the faith because their family did. They went to church at some point. But then when they Um, when they got to like adulthood, probably college and afterwards, they stopped going to church. They didn't stop believing. They believe in their heart. They believe. They stopped having fellowship with Christians. They kind of led a normal life. Go to work, get married, have cars, kids, hang out with the guys, have barbecues. But Jesus is not a part of your life. You're not doing things to glorify Jesus. You're not throwing seed. You're not trying to evangelize. Jesus is not somebody who is a part of your daily life. And what happens is, if I were to ask those people, do you believe in Jesus? Oh, yeah, my Lord and Savior. I said the prayer and I did the baptism and da da da. Okay. What part of your life is he now? Oh, no, Tom, look, we got to work. We got to do this. We got to do that. We have all these responsibilities, blah, blah. We have bills to pay. Da, da, da. And the cares of the world choke out your faith because your priority is the cares of the world. Your priority is your job. Your priority is paying the bills. Your priority is your spouse, and your kids. Your priority is everything but Jesus. Jesus said something really fascinating. And at the time, this is like just radical craziness. He said, if you love your mom and dad more than you love me, you have no part of me. Now, in first century Judea, where everything is tribal and families live together forever, right? Saying that if you love your mom and dad more than you love Jesus, you have no part of him. For a rabbi to say that would be really, oh my gosh, that's just really challenging. Remember the guy, he wants to follow Jesus and he says, well, let me first go bury my dad, and because his dad died. I mean, that's a reasonable request. And Jesus says, let the dead bury their dead. Either come with me or don't. Wow. I mean, that's harsh. That's wow. That's hard, right? But we're talking about God. And God has told us over and 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 over again in Scripture, he's got to be number one. I mean, that's it. He's God. He's either number one or he's not. And Jesus once said, you're either with me or against me. He's a very black and white guy when you read about him. I like that because I'm a black and white guy. But he expects to be number one in your heart, number one in your life, number one priority, number one thing you're thinking about, number one, just everything. And so for all my friends that are believers, and I know literally hundreds, where Jesus is not number one, Jesus is a part of what you're doing. Jesus, well, for some, he's not even a part. And I know, and you know how I know? I was out of the church for 25 years. When I got out of foster care at 17 and went off to college, that was it. I'd been through a number of foster homes. I had been through a lot of different churches. I'd been to foster homes that were non-believers. I've been with believers. I was burned out on church and religion. God and I were arguing about lots of stuff. I always prayed. God and I always had a close relationship that way, even though I had a really bad theology. But I didn't go back to church for 25 years. And Jesus was not the center of my life. Work was. Promotions, titles, affirmation from that, money. Didn't make a lot of money, but yeah, I mean, having influence. That was my big thing, was having influence. I loved having influence. All that was important. And what wasn't important was Jesus. He was there. I was like, oh yeah, I'm certainly a believer, right? He's tucked in my back pocket somewhere. Now, I prayed every night. I prayed all the time, but it wasn't about glorifying Jesus. And I was this guy that they're talking about here, where the seed was thrown. I certainly wanted it. I certainly grew, but I grew with the weeds, and the weeds choked me out. The world choked me out. I enjoyed the fun that the world could give you, right? Drinking with my buddies, and just all the stuff of the world. That's what was intriguing. It was all shiny, and I wanted it. And Satan had me blinded about why Jesus had to be first. He had me convinced that Jesus could be anywhere in the mix. So long as he was in the mix, I was okay. And that's just not what this scripture says. It says the seed falls and it gets choked out by the weeds, and because they grow together. Now remember what happens here when the weeds and the wheat grow together. Remember the parable of the tares, and these it says that this farmer had planted a bunch of good stuff, and in the middle of the night, the enemy, I guess other farmers or someone who was trying to mess with them, planted weeds in his crop. And so they asked him, should we go get the weeds out? And he says, nah, let them grow together. When it comes to harvest time, we'll cut them all down and then we'll separate them and we'll keep the good stuff and throw the bad stuff in the fire. And Jesus is telling this parable saying, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're going to let the righteous and the unrighteous be together. The rain falls on both, right? And when the time comes, the harvest, we're going to separate the sheep from the goats. We're going to separate the wheat from the tares, and the weeds are going in the fire, and the righteous are going with Jesus. This stuff isn't that complicated. But my question for you is this: where are you? Where are you? Is Jesus number one in your life, or are you being choked out by the weeds? I pray. It's funny. I think I pray more about my friends that are nominal Christians who think they're in the faith that actually are choked out by the weeds than I do for my atheist friends. I think the atheist friends of mine have chosen, and they're redeemable. I'm throwing seed, but they're big boys and girls. They can make a decision. So long as they know the consequences, so long as they understand that there's those of us that believe what we believe and that we've told them, they're on their own. For those of my friends, though, that are nominal Christians, I'm worried about them. Matthew 7:21 says, on that day, many will call me Lord, Lord. And I'll say, I never knew you. And they said, didn't we do all this stuff in your name? Didn't we do all this stuff in your name? Jesus says, away from me. You didn't know me. You don't have a relationship with me, right? I think there's a lot of Christians that think they have a relationship with Jesus who really don't, because he's not number one. They're growing up with these weeds. They're getting choked out, and they're going to be very, very surprised that Jesus will not take kindly to being number 2, number 6, number 50, number 599. He's number one. And everything you do must be to glorify him. You must show everybody Jesus in everything you do. If not, you're really not in the faith. You're not really following Jesus. You're following yourself, right? So that's that one. And then this last one is the good one, right? He says, if you are a follower and you're doing great and the word falls upon you, you hear it, you do it, you live it, you have fruit. Jesus said, you'll know my disciples. He said 2 things. You'll know my disciples by the way they love one another. And he also said, you'll know by their fruit. You know people by their fruit. He says, a good tree doesn't bear bad fruit and a bad tree doesn't bear good fruit. You'll see. And I think you do see. I think that for those that are in the faith that I know, even when I was coming back to church, so after 25 years, Lisa and I came, we were married, and I decided we should go back to church. And you could tell those in the church who were absolutely on fire for the Lord. I mean, you could just tell by their fruit and who they were and their light and just how they spoke and how they carried themselves and what their focus was. You could tell the ones that were satisfied with a fairly shallow relationship with Jesus, and that's okay. That was your choice, right? And this isn't judging. This is just what it is. You could tell the ones that the world was more important to them than Jesus, even though they were playing church. Yeah, I mean, you could see this stuff, and you can see. It was funny. Some people would come to church, and they just check it out, and they never show up again. And those people too, right? So yeah, I love this parable because I'm a seed thrower, and I want everyone who's a believer to be a seed thrower. I want you to go out there and just wing that stuff everywhere you can, because scriptures tell us it's not about where you're throwing it. Let God handle where it lands. Our job is to evangelize. Our job is to share Jesus. Now, the best way to share Jesus is just tell your experience. Just tell. No one can argue with your story because it's your story. So you want to evangelize, just say, look, I don't know the Jesus you know, but let me tell you about the one I know. This is what happened to me. And it's a great story. My wife has a great story. She was kind of a searcher for a long time because she had questions. And she's a logical person. It sounds like my dog Charlie saying hi to everyone. She's a logical person and needed a logical answer. And as she read books like The Case for Christ, and she looked at theology books that I was reading when I was in seminary and stuff, it started to come together for her. She's got a great story because she can say, look, I'm a nurse, I'm in science, I've done all this stuff. And she's, I'd be honest, the most faithful woman I've ever met. Just an incredible helpmate in terms of things. She just gets it. And And the reason she gets it, she's got a great story because she didn't always get it. And I think that the best stories come from people that have had the transformation, who didn't always get it, and then had their eyes opened. I mean, kind of almost like Paul has the scales come off his eyes and he sees for the first time. It's like, wow, this is incredible. For those of us that have had those kind of experiences, it's night and day. And so those are the best stories to tell. My friend Ladina, she's got great stories she can tell about God's faithfulness and how He's moved in her life and carried her at times. And you tell the story of the Jesus you know, and there's nothing anybody can say other than, well, that's good for you. I had someone say that once. That's good for you, Tom. Yeah, it is. It's awesome for me. And then I say, I would like that awesomeness for you, but that's your choice. That's between you and God. I'm just going to tell you what I tell you, right? And so I just want to encourage you a little bit tonight. If you ever get to read this parable, it's in Matthew 13, the parable of the sower, the parable of seeds, that it's not just about where the seed lands. It's about being the person throwing it. Be bold, throw the seed, throw it everywhere. Just be crazy about it. I mean, one of my friends, Byron Loosely, he's a accountability partner of mine. He's become like the consummate Jesus freak, which I love. Fun story. He used to be a Mormon, and he found Jesus and just has gone crazy. And man, he throws seeds everywhere, and it's hilarious because he's so overboard with it. People are like, dang, he's just a Jesus freak. And I'm like, yes, he is. He's a Jesus freak because he gets it. He gets it. He was in a dark place called Mormonism. And now, years later, he gets Jesus and who he is in his life. And he has no fear. And he understands. He throws seed. If it lands, fabulous. And we will walk with anybody where that seed lands. If it lands and gets chewed up or no people want it or whatever, okay, that's great. Now understand this. One more thing about seeds, and I'll finish up. There's an imagery that Paul uses, and he talks about some people throw seed, some people water it, some people nurture it, right? You may be throwing a seed today that lands somewhere that you just don't see any fruit. And then, I don't know, 20 years from now, you'll see that come to fruition. And you didn't do anything, right? God's done this stuff, but God has these divine appointments. He puts other people in the way. He's going to, once that seed is there, he's going to want to cultivate it. He's going to do all this stuff. Yeah, sometimes you got to fertilize it, right? He's going to do all this stuff. And so the seed you throw, don't worry if you don't see the fruit. Because here's how I look at it. When I get to heaven, and once I get over the awesomeness of seeing Jesus, right? I think there's going to be people up there that I don't know, but know me. I don't remember. I threw some seeds sometime. I gave a speech to 1,000 people and something hit. And they're going to be in heaven, not because of anything, but me throwing a seed and someone watering it and someone nurturing it and someone discipling that person. This whole line of people that God put in their life. I'm just one. And we're all going to have that if you throw the seed. They're going to be people in heaven because you threw seed, even though it never came to fruition while you were watching it. And I think that's really cool too. That's faith. That's hope. Those are things that you got to have in this business. You got to believe that what you're doing makes a difference. And there's no difference that's more important than making an eternal difference for somebody. And so get encouraged, be fired up. I mean, just be excited about this. You should want to go out right now and just go throw some seed at somebody, because that's the game. That's the whole thing we're here to do. So when I get in front of Jesus, I got a lot of explaining to do for my first 40 years of life, but I get to tell him that from the time I got it, when my eyes were open, when I was 40 years old, this happened. I was in the desert for 40 years, but when I was 40 years old, I kind of started to get it. From that point forward, man, did I throw seed. And I can't wait to talk to Jesus about all that and see how it goes, because I feel very good about that partnership I have with Jesus, that I throw the seed and he does the rest. So be encouraged, throw some seed. Doesn't matter whether you throw it on rocky ground or on a path or in the bushes or wherever you throw it. Just make sure that you don't think that there are people out there that are not worth it. Everybody's redeemable. Everyone should have a shot to know Jesus. If they reject him, so be it. But everyone should have a shot to know Jesus. And you, my friends, are the ones that will introduce them, hopefully through your story by telling them, look, let me share the Jesus I know. Okay. Hope you have a great Friday night, great weekend. And the weather's supposed to be warm. Make sure you hydrate out there. And if you have allergies, get some allergy pills because the pollen is high. Hope you've had a great night, and we'll talk soon. I think I'm back. I don't know. I'm probably back next week sometime. I'll let you know on the Rev Tom TV. I love this thing. Talk to you soon. Bing.